Sooner Nation, Thunder Nation, we are back. This is the Just Okay Sports podcast. That is just Oklahoma sports, aka also a very average okay podcast. We're not insiders. There is no subscription fee. There is no Patreon. There is no none of those things. We're just here as fans giving you our thoughts and commentary on different things. And when we do happen to come across what we think might be inside information, we are happy to share it with you. I'm Daryl, and that is my brother Jared. Jared, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Do we talk about the weather? We talk about the weather to start. No, it's been good. I had to go. I'm still trying to get my passport stuff sorted out. Man, it is such a
Still?
yeah. It's a whole saga. But um, the biggest problem is down here everybody's trying to get a passport. And like the two places that are closest to me that I can go
Mm-hmm.
are like they only have walk-ins like one day a week for like 2 or 3 hours. And it takes quite a bit of time. Like you got to go in there and you have to have even when you go in there, it's what's crazy is you go in there with everything filled out and then it still takes forever. So anyway, it's a whole process. So I got to go Monday. Luckily the guy did it. And here's what's funny. I went in there and their card machine was down. I didn't know that when I was
Oh.
there and I didn't have cash. And so he does all of this stuff and then tells me like, well, we can't take cards. And I'm like, I don't have like, cash on me, bro. But luckily, like he gave me my packet. So everything's ready to go. I just have to go back on Monday. And he was like, as long as it's me here, which it will be, you're good. So anyway, and he's like the turnaround time right now is like three weeks. 3 to 5 weeks, I think is what he said. But he's like, it's gonna be like probably 3 weeks if you expedite.
Wow.
So anyway, but yeah, no, it's always like I feel like since I moved here, it's like for some reason now I have more. Maybe it's because I live in a city now. I don't know. Some of this doesn't have anything to do with living in a city, but like I have so much more I have to deal with like government run things, and I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
like
Living in the county's got its advantages.
it really does, honestly. So yeah, it's been a little bit of a hectic endeavor for that, but like everything with the government is, bro. It's
Ugh.
so it's such a just like. And it was funny because that was the other thing. Their camera machine was down. So I had to go to a Walgreens and there's a line at Walgreens because everybody's and I felt bad because I'm at a Walgreens trying to get my passport picture taken. And they only had one girl working at the Walgreens. So she's having to run to the register, check people out, then run over and take our pictures and handle it all. And I'm like, bro, like this is a disaster. You know what I mean? So um anyway, but yeah, it's been wild. So how is it in Oklahoma? It's y'all had like some weird weather, didn't you? Like actually to talk about weather, like it was like cold and hot and then cold and hot, right?
Yeah, it's definitely been up and down, but the last like week or so it's been great. The craziest thing going on in our world are twofold things. Number one, if you are listening to this podcast and you happen to have seen, there's been two crazy things take place in our life. If you've happened to see the peanut butter and toes story that's made it worldwide, my daughter was involved with that. Oh, uh,
Well, let's clarify that before we let people run wild with that.
oh gosh, yeah. So she was part of the Stuco team that organized said Dare Day event. And so the way that works is students volunteer and say, I will be dared to do whatever if we raise so much money for the charity. That's how Dare Day works, right? So years ago, I didn't go to the actual assembly this year, but years ago I went to one and like a person was willing to swallow like two goldfish if they raise like $1,500, and they did. Somebody they got the students to raise $1,500 and they swallowed goldfish. So it's doing junk like that. That's how it all came about. Was a couple different people said, okay, we will lick the peanut butter off somebody's foot if everybody raises X amount of money for said charity. That's how that all came together. Again, volunteered on, signed off on by parent, like all the stuff. Anyway, so she was world news for that, so that was fun. And then, dude, I continue to be convinced that you have a voodoo doll of whatever vehicles we own, and you are just punching holes in them like every other week.
I like
So,
how it's immediately blame me. I like how
yeah,
it's we just skip straight to
yeah.
blaming me
I
for it.
think it is your anger and bitterness because of my lack of changing the intro to have names on it. I believe that is what
I am
is
pretty sure that I
driving
have
it.
I have more runtime than Troy. No, all respect to Troy. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure I have more
hundred
runtime than
percent.
Troy. Still not on the intro.
I look. I own my fault. Okay, I'm not saying it's right, but I've owned it. But dude, so the saga has been just little. Like my wife car needed brakes. We did the brakes. Then, like 2 months after doing the brakes, we start hearing a grinding noise on the front end of her car. So we changed the bearings out, thinking the bearings were going out. It continued to grind. So went in there and looked again and realized that you could see where the rotor had gotten extremely hot. And so it ruined the rotor, ruined the brake pads. So we had to replace all that. And it was because the caliper was bad on the car. So we got to replace the caliper. And then not like a week later, we go to put gas in the car and it will barely start after putting gas in it. I was like, well, that was weird, but I didn't really think much of it. I was really scared we got bad gas, right? Then the next time we filled it up, it did it again. So then I started doing research. So we had to replace the purge valve on her car. And then it starts saying that it's getting, or the heater quit working in the middle of winter. So then we found out the water pump was out on her car. And I believe we talked about this on here. So sorry to rehash, but in a Ford Explorer 2015 edition, you literally have to lift the entire engine out of the car, split it in half to change the water pump. So we got to do that on her car. Then the day we got it back from all the brake stuff being done right, she pulls into a parking spot with her wheel completely cranked over to the left. And in doing so, it grabbed a piece of trim up in her wheel well and ripped the whole wheel well cover out and some part of the trim on the outside of her car off as she hopped the curb. So we had that. And then I've had an oil leak in my truck for a while. So I took that in this week to get work done. And 24 hours into it being there, I got a phone call of, hey, I need you to come to the shop and I need you to come look at your truck with me, which I knew meant this is not good. So now my truck is completely disassembled because there's all kinds of seals in it that are off, like way up in the engine. So what was going to be like $100 job is now turned into $1,000 job on the car. So that's been us in the last like 2-3 months of car life. Been awesome.
Yeah, it's really weird. One, obviously, all our listeners are just thrilled to know that we're also a mechanic podcast now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's that way. I ended up redoing. They have on my car. There's yeah, I don't remember what they exactly call them, like cam adjuster gears or whatever. And they're like, I bought like the packs. There's four of them. There's one for each cam. And they're right on the front, but that does take a little bit of work to get to them. And like if you took it to a shop to do it, it would cost you like hundreds and hundreds of dollars, if not
Yeah.
maybe 1,000 or more. And like it was a bit of a pain. But yeah, it's like the part was like for like the four of them, I think was like 40 or $40.
Right.
If, if you took it in, it would be like $1,000 in labor or something. So it is
Right.
pretty crazy. So yeah, but
Yeah. And that's what sucks is like literally the two most expensive things we've had to do on this. Like my wife's car, the literal water pump was like $35. Like,
yeah.
and then the labor was well over 1,000. And then now I've got a gasket out on my truck. So it's a $25 gasket, but it's
Hey,
$1,000 in
hey,
labor.
here's we're not sponsored. You're more than welcome. You're more than welcome to sponsor us, but Rock Auto, way to go.
Yes. There you go.
So yeah.
Absolutely. It
Yeah,
would be awesome.
it is weird. It's kind of one of those when it rains it pours things,
Yeah.
it's like cars and like house stuff, you know what I mean? It's like kind of same with house, like you'll have a sink that goes out and then it's like, okay, well now then the bathtub screws up and then
Yeah.
your fridge, you know what I mean? It's just like
Yeah.
it's like come in waves. So
Well, and it sucks because we've been talking about getting my wife a new car anyway. And so when we look back on the last 3 months of how much we've spent in repairs, it's just like we should have just bought a car. Like we should have just done the car thing.
yeah.
But is what it is. Anyways, well, let's talk some sports, shall we, from the state of
Yes,
Oklahoma. Let's
sir.
get into that. Let's start with OU. We try to start with bad news first, generally, and I mean some bad news. Jaden Nickens decommits this evening, literally like 20 minutes before we come on the pod. So breaking news, although you're going to be hearing this tomorrow. So, because this is Wednesday night, 9 o'clock, all the stuff Central Time that is. But yeah, a big blow in state recruit. You can go to his Twitter and see all the stuff. Seems very clear that he is very intent on playing two sports. And it seems that there was I think just an agree to disagree kind of situation, not mad at anybody. I think OU just kind of laid out their case of, man, we don't know how to make that work. And he really wants to still play basketball, which I don't know how he's going to do that at a school that's competitive in football.
Yeah, I mean it's one thing because like OU, like Tatum, obviously is an example of a two-sport athlete, but the crossover of baseball and football is so
Minimal.
much less. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean you might miss some of the. You're obviously going to miss some summer camp or maybe some spring camp or whatever, but you can manage that, right?
Right.
But it's like basketball. It's like I don't like, and especially it's like you kind of still in the end have to pick, right? Because most schools like even if you go to a school like Michigan, we'll use Michigan as an example just because they came to mind. Competitive typically in both sports,
Yes.
right? Because they're competitive in both sports, they're still going to force you to choose one or the other,
Yeah.
right? Because they're, you know what I mean? Like, so you either go to a school that's competitive with one, not the other, where you're going to be wasting your time. And you know what I mean? Like, the whole point is eventually I feel like you're going to get funneled into one sport or the other.
Yeah. And
Um,
well, that I agree with you because that's the thing. He's going to have to choose to go to a school where the football team's bad. I mean, there's just no other way. I mean, when you think about it, even if his team is bad, they're going to play to December, which, okay, December, January, February, March, if you make the
mhm,
tournament, right? But if they even make a bowl game, he's playing well into December,
mhm.
potentially January. And now you're down to January and you've got February, March. And if you're on a team like no slight, kind of a slight, he goes to OSU, right? Like they're probably going to be in the running for a Big 12 championship almost all the time, at least every other year. So if that's the case, that means they're going to be in line for New Year's Six Bowl. They're going to be in line for other bowls.
Well,
And they're also with the 12-team playoff, they're going to be in a position to make the 12-team playoff, which means again, he's playing into mid-January. I I kind of understand why OU would
well,
say, "Bro, like we love that you want to do both. We just don't know how that's going to work."
Well, and I think you have to look at it. I almost wonder because he hasn't. His statement was a little. All statements of decommitment are typically fairly vague, right? And so I may be that he is just trying to. He's opening his commitment and saying, like if a school like Kansas came to him and said, "I want you to play basketball for us," like you got to look at that, right?
Right?
And if a school like OU still knocking on the door for football, then you choose OU or whatever, like whatever. You know what I mean? It may be that he is trying to say, I'm open to both recruitments, but in the end, he's going to pick one or the other. I don't know. It was a very weird thing. I'm sure there's more details that will come out. We're probably never going to know the whole story. But yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. It's a weird thing. Basketball and football, just when you get to collegiate level, it's just way too difficult to have that crossover. Like baseball, I would even say like things like we've had, like you've seen players throughout college athletics that have done like football and baseball, like Bo Jackson and all those, right?
Yeah.
And you've
But
even
that's
seen
the
some
thing.
that
It's
done,
all like
yeah, that's what,
99% of the time it's track and baseball.
yeah, track that's a track and baseball and then like football, right? So yeah, it's a weird thing. I'm interested to see how it plays out. And I don't know. It's we'll see how that plays out. You hate to lose an in-state kid like that.
Yeah.
And especially like you said,
Talented too. Crazy
yeah.
talented.
So, but yeah, I mean, I also don't think, with the way Emmett Jones recruits,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm kind of like, I'm not losing a ton of sleep over it, as bad as that may be to say. I think the kid's talented. I wish him nothing but the best. And I hope, maybe at the end he still picks OU. But
Yeah, and I was gonna say that's the thing we always have to step back to, right? Is there's a couple different things here at play. He obviously wants to try to play both sports.
Mhm.
He's got to open himself up to those conversations if that's really what he wants to do. And look, it may be as simple as he went to BV and said, "I want to do both," and BV said, "Man, I don't know how to make that work." Porter Moser says, "I don't know how to make that work," right? Like,
Right.
and he goes, "Well, I want to talk to some people who might be willing to do that," right? Well, because of BV's policies on visits and all that stuff, it could just simply be, look, I'm still with you guys as far as I'm still like I want to be here, but if I can find a place that's willing to let me do that, then I'm gonna give that a
Well,
shot. Right? Oh my, oh my goodness!
wait. Well, do we get a can? Oh my
Whoa!
handsome. The
Whoa!
man, the myth, the legend.
Wow! There's been no slander towards Troy before him
No.
getting on this podcast.
Oh yeah, yeah.
There's
Like
been
I believe
no
that. Oh
slander
yeah.
whatsoever.
Okay, can we put it? Let's put a hang on. Let's put a plug in what we were talking about. Troy, I need your update, your life update. Tell me everything you got going on. I want every excruciating detail. You look handsome. I missed you. I love you. You know, give it to me.
I had a lot of family stuff going on tonight. The mom was gone. The mom was out, and so it was just daddy. And we ended up watching Solo tonight. The kids hadn't watched it.
Let's go.
Got done with it, and I told my son we'd play one quick game of this Star Wars game. And so, anywho, got him to bed, and I just jumped in here. I was like, they'll have no idea. This will be great.
That's so true, though. We were just discussing, by the way, don't know if you saw this, Troy, but OU had a decommitment this evening.
I did not.
Mr. Jaden Nickens out of Millwood.
Wide receiver.
We don't know for sure, but again, we are speculating based on his post. It seems very much so he wants to play basketball and football. And that's what we were just discussing is it seems kind of like he went to the staff. And again, this is me completely just reading into his post. Does that make sense, Troy? This is not, I haven't talked to anybody or anything like that. It seems like he said, hey, I really want to play basketball. And either Porter Moser and BV or whoever said, I don't think that's going to work in this era of 12-team playoff. You're going to be playing until February. And that's just not going to work. And he wants to be open to talk to other schools about that. I don't know how he's going to do that at a school.
I don't either, but I mean, that's fair if that's what the kid wants to do. 100%. Right?
And that's what we were saying. And we were saying he might talk to all these schools and they say the same thing of, look, man, we don't know how. Well, and he comes back to OU. I don't know.
Well, and here's the thing we said, Troy, was in my mind, it's like I can't think of a scenario where he's going to be able to do both when it comes to football and basketball, right? Even if you go to a school, like I use the example, if he goes to Michigan, who's a team that's usually pretty good at both sports, like if you're pretty good at both sports, one of those teams is going to say, you're better at football, you're better at basketball, and you're going to lock down on this because we need you.
Right.
Or you go to a school that's unserious about one, and then you're just going to end up going to the, you know what I mean? Like you're always going to funnel to one sport is my point.
They just overlap too much.
I can't fault the kid for if that's what he wants to do. You know,
100%.
And if you get coaches from the same school to agree to it, and you figure out a plan, more power to you, bro.
Yeah, 100%.
I just had there was somebody at OU, and I cannot remember, and somebody maybe in the comments of the pod will say. There was somebody at OU, and it was not that long ago. It didn't feel like this course I could have been within the last 15 years now. I'm old. But that he wanted to play basketball and even talked about wanting to play basketball. Was it Gallant? There wasn't Gallimore. Who was it? It was somebody you wouldn't think.
Yeah, you're right.
But there was somebody that he talked about how he always wanted to play basketball, but he said like basically football, he was too successful in football. That he just stayed with football. So I can't remember who it was. So somebody maybe will, tell me I'm an idiot and it's this person down in the comments, but
it'll be tricky. So anyway, so that's our bad news, but that's really the bulk of the bad news tonight, Troy.
I've got some good news.
Oh,
I've
got
some good news.
Okay.
J-Dub is not on the injury report. He's ready to go tomorrow night.
I have that in the notes for
I broke it for you. How about that?
I have that, which I'm still very curious about that. Like, I don't know.
Did you say you have a flow?
Don't know what you're talking about.
Whoa, time out. Can you just say that word one more time?
A flow.
Did you see how he tried to do that with the smolder face?
Hold on. If I had
he was hitting
the mic with the ASMR or whatever.
Maybe, ear licking like the. Yeah.
Did you say you had a flow?
I have notes.
Blue Magnum after this.
So moving on, we have a decommitment, but OU also had a weekend where they did what they called their Future Freaks weekend, which is where they invite kids that are 2026, 2027, and they even had a 2028 invite to the weekend. So they are looking way ahead, trying to get kids
Maybe
on
Baby
campus.
Gronk was there.
Yeah, maybe Baby Gronk was though. Good Lord. Something like that. But it is wild though. I mean, there's I can't remember, trying to remember what position he played, but they were talking about one guy already who is a freshman and like went to like the Under Armour future deal and was just dominating guys, like giving guys problems as freshmen. I mean, that's the kind of talent you want to get in on. But from all reports, like again, not an insider, but just reading the different things, was a highly successful weekend. Already have one guy who had been predicted in crystal ball to one school flipped by someone in it. And then you have some other guys that kind of came in. A lot of people didn't think were interested that are already saying they're going to be back for the spring game and maybe the summer barbecue as well. So there's
awesome.
Great momentum coming out of that. And I love the way that they've approached this weekend. One thing that was really cool, I did listen to the Sooner Scoop, like recruiting deal that they do on their YouTube channel. And they said that one of the cool things that they do at this Future Freaks event is they actually go over with the athletes what the rules are about communication. Because they said in years past, what has happened is these kids that are freshmen and sophomores go, "You're not calling me." And they're like, "We can't. Like, we're not allowed to call you until this point in time. You can call us. You can email us. You can do all those things, but we cannot initiate the conversation." And they were like, "Dude, we didn't even know that. Like, we had no idea that that's how it worked." And so just those little educational things that are really good for them and great. That was awesome. Some other guys that were there, by the way, a guy by the name of Ty Haywood. And if you are not following this track, big lineman, which I like, and he is rated very high. And he is one of the guys that was there this weekend that was flipped from an A&M crystal ball over to OU this weekend. You cannot get enough. And I'm telling you right now, Beatonbow's in on like 3 of the top 10 and like 4 of the top like 15 offensive tackles in this class, which is redonkulous.
Come back to me whenever he has got commits to all of them.
It is very early in this class. We were talking about that.
Yes.
Who was it last week we talked about that jumped 280 spots or whatever?
Foj.
Foj, yeah.
Foj.
It is always funny to me because I feel like OU's like borderline this way. OU fan base is borderline this way, but it's always like, what was it, Tennessee, that one year that Tennessee was just roasting OU? They're like, "Oh, your recruiting class sucks." And it was like all through the spring they were talking trash, and then they ended up with like, that was the year they had all the chaos. They had like the 80th ranked class and all that.
Why do we engage? Can I ask y'all a question? Why do we engage with the A&Ms, the Missouris, the Tennessees of the world? They are not on our level. Why does our fan base do that? Like USC, like they just engage like nobody's business.
Look, OU Twitter is undefeated, sometimes in good ways, but most of the time it's not great.
Jeez,
I mean,
man.
they just want to fight on there like crazy.
They do. They just want to fight.
They do. Absolutely. Now, the other one that I think is huge though, and this is, Jared, I'm coming back to your point that you were just making though about how we get wrapped up in rankings and stuff right now. Elijah Thomas, who is from Chakota, Oklahoma, wide receiver. Emmett Jones has got him in the boat already. He's already recruiting like mad. Big time prospect. He just took the Under Armour MVP honors at the regional event this weekend as well. Okay. Big time athlete. And I was listening to Thune and Drum on this, and Parker made a great case. He goes, "I don't think there's any way that Elijah Thomas gets to a 5th star simply because he goes to Chakota. The fact that he's in Oklahoma, which is not overly respected in the recruiting community, and he's at a small school in Oklahoma, they said it's going to take him winning like MVP all the way throughout the camp stuff for them to even consider giving him a 5th star, and the chances were low. And that's the other thing is this staff, I think we have to agree, they have done a phenomenal job of finding what they want and evaluating the right things, regardless of the size of the school or what state they're from, those kinds of things. And it brought them in. And look, man, like it's kind of proving out.
I honestly, I think with the way things have gone recently with all the recruiting services too,
Mm-hmm.
it's so much more political now. It's so much more social media driven. So it's like, what can we do to drive the most clicks, right? Look at Arch Manning, right? Like you had some services that were like, Arch Manning's the greatest prospect to ever breathe air. You know, it was like, okay, you know, and then this year you had the On3 stuff with David Stone where they were like basically said he's not any good or he's not that good or whatever it was. But it was because he refused to basically engage with them on their posts or whatever. It's become such a political and like weirdly driven thing that it's like coaches and staffs are having to look away from those. Not to say that they probably should have ever leaned on them, but I think more than ever, like, oh, let's be honest, like there's been plenty of guys that have showed up that have been barely 4 stars or even 3 stars that have started to show up. I don't feel like star ratings. I've always been one of those guys, you know, that you can't just stare at the stars and say that's where you're going to win. Yeah, but I think more and more as time's gone on, I think they have less value because of that.
Well, I don't know. I think there's truth kind of in both lanes of that, right? Because I do think that there's a reality from a data standpoint that the recruiting services have gotten better at their evaluation process of athletes. Like if you really go down like 4-star, 5-star territory and how that turns out, their hit rate is way higher. Now that doesn't mean the number one kid in the class always, but I'm just saying those kids tend to get drafted, kind of stuff. Like a high percentage get drafted.
Well,
so that's gotten better. But I do agree with you, especially with there being so much competition now between 247, On3, rivals, all that stuff. They are looking to make money. And yes, by writing a post that says David Stone's not any good, right? You're going to generate information, you know? And if your site is, for whatever reason, let's say you have 30% more subscribers, for instance, to the University of Miami, which, by the way, was the school trying to get David Stone, and it wasn't going their way. Well, then to write a hit piece basically on David Stone is going to generate tons of clicks and shares and all the stuff from your Miami fan base, right? So there's lots of things that play into that. But needless to say, one thing you can say in these camp settings, they don't have pads on, but you can see athleticism. And Elijah Thomas stole the show at this thing down there, as well as every single offensive tackle that OU is in on. They have not committed yet, but that they are highly in on also showed out in a really, really big way, which is really good for OU moving forward.
yeah, I mean, and I guess that's the way I would put it is I think in a broad sense, they get it more right? Like I said, if you get a 4 or 5 star, then it's to me, like I look at it as like a giant pool now, right? Like if you get a 4 or 5-star kid, the difference between the number 1 ranked kid and maybe even a 4-star kid may not be that big, just based on, like I said, the politics and social media or whatever. So, but yeah, honestly, like I said, when you have guys that go to a camp and they're facing off against these guys 1-on-1,
yeah,
good news. So
I tend to lean towards what Daryl was saying on this. I think there is some truth to that, Jared, but I don't think it's as much as you're making it out to be. Does that make sense? Like, I think there's a lot of that, but I also think, like, for the most part, they're the 5 stars are the 5 stars kind of across the board. There's a few here and there. Yeah. The 4s are the 4 stars for the most part. And so yeah, I just give me freaking wins. Like, yes. I'm tired. I just want wins in the SEC, yada, yada, yada. Just give me the freaking wins.
Well, and here's the other thing I was going to say on recruiting front, and something that I've never really thought about until I started trying to kind of look ahead to 25 and 26 a little bit. When you think about those early 2000 runs, right, that OU went on, and really the Big 12, remember, like 99, 2000, all the way up through 2008, the Big 12 was running college football. I mean, it was
Mhm.
That was the gauntlet, right? Was to get through the Big 12. I mean, think about the year that OU won it all. You had to beat number 1 Nebraska. You had to beat number 3 Texas. You had to beat number 5 Kansas State. I mean, they were everywhere. And then right around 2007, 2009, it shifts to the SEC, right? And the SEC has now been dominant for 15 years. As I look ahead in these rankings, I will say this. OU needs to win a national championship in the next 3 years. And here's why I say that. Go through and look at the rankings and the star rating for Oklahoma in 2025 and 2026. It is high. The state is loaded with talent, and Texas is loaded with talent. Whereas when you go back the last couple of years, Texas is always going to have some top level talent. But when you looked at the top 20, 25, 50, it was Georgia, Louisiana, Alabama, Florida, right? I'm looking at 25 right now. Okay. I'm going to start at 1. Okay. I've got Texas, Ohio, Georgia, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, Texas, Georgia, Kansas, which is right neighboring to us, Texas again, Kansas again, Texas again, Kansas again, Las Vegas, which Bishop Gorman, which might as well be a neighboring state while DeMarco's on staff. So that's good. Texas again, Oklahoma, I mean, the region right now, right around OU, and all those Texas guys, they're Denton, they're Louisville, they're all that DFW North area, which now makes it an availability for OU to really get in recruit in a huge way. I mean, Oklahoma, according to 247, has the number 46 overall prospect in 2025. And not only are they the 46 overall, they're an edge. That's an SEC level lineman right in the backyard of OU, right? This is what you've got to strike right now while the iron's hot, and you got to make a run in the playoffs while you can with these guys coming in, And as a matter of fact, Steven, Jared, I don't know if you saw it the other day, they were talking about Beatonbow, how all these guys are talking so glowingly and he's getting all the future casts. And he goes, he just needed regional guys. He does not do good on the coast. And it's hard to get guys out of Louisiana, and it's hard to get guys out of Alabama and Georgia. But now you're looking at Denton, and you're looking at Dallas, and you're looking at Oklahoma City, and you're looking at Tulsa, and they're producing the guys he wants, and now he's cleaning shop. And I'd never thought about that, to be honest. In all my criticism of Beatonbow, I hadn't really thought about that very much. And that's what got me looking down the rankings. And man, it could be the next 2 years, especially 2026. The state of Oklahoma is loaded. And if those guys hit, it's going to be big. And you think about this roster right now, Gentry Williams, RSJ. Who else do we have out of Oklahoma on this roster right now? You're going to have the Roberts kid playing tight end for OU this year. And then it's a ton of Texas kids, and again, Denton, which is right across the border. So it's not,
well,
it's
I mean,
a
and
good season.
You've cracked into, you've cracked into some of those, Denton you've cracked into, right? That's cool.
You're actually having conversations with kids out of Duncanville, which under Lincoln and under Bob, Duncanville was a closed off campus, and now it's open.
Yeah. So you got to start making those inroads. So, yeah, and like I said, it's really weird because it's really when you think about it, it's maybe this is my bias because I live here now, but it's really you think about all those states that are local, and then it's and then Florida, they've got a really strong pipeline to Florida too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's man, you really are hitting the fertile grounds. So yeah, it's exciting. I mean, we've talked about this a lot already, and I'm sure we'll talk about it this more and more as we get close to the season starting. This is a big season for OU. This is literally the pendulum season right now of which way is it going to go?
Yeah. Which is why this O-line's got to pull it together. So, all right, moving on OU stuff. They had Pro Day yesterday. Did you guys get to watch any of Pro Day while you were at work or doing anything? No, nobody.
I saw the stuff, but
I watched the tail end of part of it. I saw Drake ran a 4.7 or something unofficial, but then they said unofficial. It was like a 4.65 or something. I think
4.67 was what they put on his page on OU site as his official time.
Better than 4.71.
That is much better than 4.71. 4.71 would have really hurt Stoops, in my opinion. Not that he wouldn't have got a shot, but that was going to really. I think he's already a super late round, undrafted free agent kind of guy anyway. If he'd have gone in the 4.7s officially on all of his 40s, I don't think that would have been good for him at all.
Here's the thing: he's going to go undrafted, and hopefully he's got a few teams calling him, and so he might be able to pick the best situation for him.
Did you hear the quote that he said
Yeah.
after his workout, which was awesome? Which is just, look, give me an opportunity, and I'll be there. And it's kind of who he is. I mean,
he's that. I mean, he's literally. I mean, the epitome of like he's kind of got like that Baker attitude. Just loves to play football.
Yeah.
Right. Like he like truly loves to play football. Like, when he had that interview where he's like, I don't care if we were 0-8. Like I show up every day the same way. And you were like, bro, like this guy, lunch pail kind of.
Well, and even
guy.
like, again, this is a term that Marco used a lot of Eric Gray. He's a professional right now in the way he carries himself. And they were even talking about, I actually was reading a thing today that the scouts loved how he set up his the routes he ran when he was getting thrown to in his workout for pro day. He literally went through NFL tape of guys that he believes his game lines up with. So he did Wes Welker routes and motions. He did Cooper Kupp routes and motions. Like he looked at Edelman stuff. And so he did. And they announced to the scouts, okay, this is me doing a motion to this in a stack formation with an inside leverage, this or that, so that they could see how he would attack those things. And I was like, dude, that's brilliant. Like, really well done. And it shows his level of detail and preparation, right? For everything. So I think he helped himself there. I do think I expected the athletic numbers to be a little bit better than they were, but he can play ball. I mean, that's all there is to it. The other guys I thought that stood out on the day, I thought Coe made some money. I thought Stogner helped himself a lot at his day, actually. And I think Jonah Lalulu, man, I think that dude.
That's the one.
He pushed himself from undrafted to drafted. You agree, Troy?
Yes.
No.
I mean, if you don't know, by the way, Jonah Lalulu came in at 6'6", 292 pounds, with a 9'10" broad jump, a 36-inch vertical at 292 pounds. And he did 24 reps on bench, and he ran a 4.9 640. I mean, like,
he would have been. I think I heard he would have been placed in the top 5 at his position at the combine if he would have gone for all the measurables.
Wow, I didn't see that part.
Yeah.
That's Coe the same. Coe 310, I believe he weighed in at. Ran a 4.9 640. Dude, his bench, 34 freaking reps.
That's a lot of
225, reps. Dude. That's a lot of
that
reps, is old man strength right there. Now, the shocker for me, after I just got done abusing Stoops for running a 4.7, Stogner went 4.85, and that shocked me. I didn't think there was any way Stogner was getting in the 4.8s. I thought he was for sure a 4.9 guy. And there is
straight line speed is fine. I think honestly, straight line speed, he's okay. It's the quick in and out of his breaks that he struggles.
That's a good point, Troy. You might be right there. But he also had a 35-inch vert at 267 pounds. I believe he weighed in.
Yeah, that'll play.
Stogner is like the weird case of, I mean, we all know as OU fans, he wasn't the same after the injury, right?
Yeah.
And really since then he hasn't been. He's kind of been a shell of his former self. So they're going to look at production and be probably a little hesitant because of that. But yeah, I think he helped his case. I think somebody's going to take a flyer on him. Probably undrafted or something maybe, but
I actually saw a thing too, which this tells you a lot. If he can find the right place that fits him, right? His numbers, believe it or not, are almost literally point for point identical to Blake Bell, who will be in his 8th, 9th How long has he been with the Chiefs, Troy? You would know. I don't know.
Blake Bell.
Yeah,
I mean, he hasn't played
they-
anywhere else, so I think 7 or 8 years.
at least. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so if that guy can make it in the NFL this long, that means Stogner can if he finds the right home, right? And a place and does the things that he needs to do. The shocker for me in Pro Day, Andrew Rain does nothing. Okay.
Is it a shocker? Because the dude's been kind of a head case since he's been here.
I mean, I'm hoping, like, this sounds bad. I don't hope for him to be injured, but I hope that's why he sat out, as opposed to, yeah, I'm just not going to do this. Like, the guy needs to do stuff, man. I don't believe he's guaranteed any kind of
No.
draft spot at all. Like, I don't know, man. And again, I want to be aware as well that sometimes agents and trainers tell these guys not to do stuff. And so he may have gotten poor advice from something like that. Sometimes families get involved and give poor advice. But I feel like when you're in that position, like an Andrew Rain, you work out at every workout you possibly can work out at and do everything you can to prove you want to play sports, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or play football, I should say, at that level. So, but Pro Day was still good. Obviously, it's pretty clear that Guyton is the gem of the OU class this year, and then we'll kind of see what comes after that. The other guy that I was really shocked by the way, was Bothroyd. I thought he would test much better than he did.
I didn't see his numbers. What were some of his
pretty
numbers?
bad, like 4.9 40.
Ooh.
I think he only had like a 30-inch vertical.
Ooh.
Rame had a 24-inch vertical, by the way. So
Ray was terrible at the combine.
Yeah,
so
he was.
So do you think Carl Williams is maybe Rame's agent?
Oh boy.
I'm just asking.
I'm
Okay.
just asking. I don't know why, but I'm just asking.
He's like, I'm not giving my medical to all the teams.
Anything else stand out to you, Jared, from Pro Day at all?
No, I mean, it's going to be an interesting, I know we'll probably talk about this when we get into like free agency and stuff. I'm actually anxious for the draft this year. Like, not just for OU. I just think this is actually gonna be a fun draft to watch this year.
Yeah. There's a lot of movement that could still happen with trades and everything else that will be pretty fascinating to see. So yeah, other sports, just very quickly. Softball, guess what? They're rolling. Just so you know, they've lost one game in their last like 80, but they're still around, just so everybody's aware. Basketball, the ladies made a run to the semifinals in the Big 12 tourney and found a team that just shot like 60% from 3-point range and lost, and don't really care because I wanted to make a run in the tournament. The guys go out in round 1 today to TCU, but it also should be noted they did not have Suarez in the game. They did not have Hughley in the game, and Javian McCollum also did not play.
Did you hear why they sat him out?
His shoulder is what I read.
Well, no. What? Like, okay, let me back up. Porter said they were holding him out to make sure they were ready for the tourney.
Yes, I'm sorry. I understand what you're asking now. Yeah. Yes, I did, and I think that's the right play.
I mean, that's him being pretty. Like, some people are like, "Hey, they're on the bubble." Some people are like, "They're in. They needed to win one game at least in the tourney." So I don't think they're squarely on the bubble. I think they're 2 little tiers above the bubble.
Yes.
But they, depending on things fall, they could get onto the bubble.
I mean, they could, but I mean, look, bracketology just 36 hours ago before the Big 12 tournament started, they had them as a 9 seed. So I mean, you're going to have to move them, losing a game by 7 points in the Big 12 without 3 of their top 7 players. You're going to have to move them from the 9 seed all the way to the 16, like out of the 16 seed. Like
I get it.
Yeah. I don't see that happening. Anyways, trying to think of what else. And baseball, I don't know how it went tonight. I haven't looked, but last night was an ugly performance by OU baseball. I turned it off at 11-2 in the like 5th inning against OSU last night. So it was a rough go. Not awesome. And then last thing on OU sports really quick. By the way, so Troy doesn't have a flow. So Troy, I'll ask this question.
Okay.
There has been a lot of it's that time where everybody's asking kind of the testing numbers. You know what I'm saying? Like, how's the bench? How's the weight? How's the this? How's the that of spring of OU football?
Okay.
Want to know what name is being thrown around outside of Brennan Thompson as one of the fastest players on the team right now?
You're gonna have to give me like a little bit of. There's a lot of fast guys on the team. Give me a little bit of hint.
How about out of quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers? What name outside of Brennan Thompson do you think that would keep coming up as one of the fastest players on the field day in and day out?
I don't know. You just tell me. I don't.
What if I told you it's Jaden Gibson at 6'5"?
Really
Yes. Yes.
fascinating.
I love it. If you can get that guy, matter of fact, one person in a thing that I was listening to said, yeah, that boy's going to be going deep a lot.
Dude, we saw like if he can stay, if they keep him on the field, then
He
the
makes
dude,
plays.
He makes plays, man.
100%.
And what's great about that is that's an Emmett Jones for me. That's an Emmett Jones product because the year before he was not making plays.
Yes, 100%. I think it's a combination of Emmett connecting with him and him maturing. But yes, that's an Emmett Jones thing for sure. Jared, how do you feel about hearing that Jaden Gibson might be one of the fastest guys on the whole squad?
Dude, it's like mouthwatering. I mean, like it's just like how do we? Like, at this point, it's like Emmett Jones is such a beast at not only coaching but bringing guys in and everything. It's like, how do we get them all on the field?
Yeah.
You know, like we all talked about last year, like the rotation's so weird. It's like, I hate to tell you guys, it might be weird this next year just because they have so many people to try to cram on the field. Like are we going to be running, some weird like 5 wide every single time we snap the ball because that's what you could do. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's definitely good. I think with especially with what we know about how the offense should look next season, it'll be good to have that speed to try to stretch the field. So I'm pumped.
Yeah. I thought that was a huge report. Another one, just because I think we all liked him coming out and then he got hurt. Eric McCarty getting a lot of praise. McAllister, Oklahoma product, is getting some real praise. And
He was a big guy on the radar coming in. Before the injury, he was like huge. They were very high on him.
Yes, and we loved his tape. I mean, all of us were like, dude, this guy can ball. It's just going to be a matter of I think all of our question was, again, smaller Oklahoma high school, and sadly enough, white guy, like, will his athleticism really translate? But he can play ball and he gets it, right? That was not a big deal. How about this one too? Friend of the podcast, Kobe McKenzie, got mad love by Teddy Lehman last week. I'm talking mad love. Teddy Lehman saying things like his body looks incredible. Teddy Lehman saying, I've never seen Kobe McKenzie be knocked backwards ever in any time I've ever been around him on tape or in person. And then he said this, and this one stands out to me. He's the smartest guy in the entire linebacker room.
Ooh, that right there with the athleticism, that's salivating right there.
The last guy he said things like that about, do y'all remember who it was? That he was singing their praises and all of us were like, really? Like,
no.
He did sing Kip's praises a little bit, but there was another guy that he pushed all the chips in for a couple years ago.
Was it Danny?
Brian Asamoah.
Oh, that's true. Yep, you're right.
Right before Asamoah blew up and became a second-round draft pick, he was like, dude, if Asamoah gets it. And he said, dude, Kobe's worked on his body. He is trim. His feet are way better and faster, and his footwork is way better. And he goes, he is the smartest guy and that's with Danny in the room as a senior.
And Jaron.
Wow. Kip, like, Kip's a smart linebacker. That's what makes him great, is he diagnoses so freaking fast and gets there so quick. So for him to say that Kobe is the better mental player,
Mhm.
that's huge. And here's my deal. I don't know how much Kobe can get on the field this year because of Kip and because of Danny, but even next year, if Danny leaves and it's Kobe and Kip, like, bro, if those reports are true, that's big time, man.
That'll play.
That'll massively play.
Well, we've
Oh, go ahead.
go-
Sorry, Jared.
I just said we've already talked about the depth of the linebacker room coming
Yes.
in. I mean, and
And Teddy even said, he goes, I haven't even mentioned Lewis Carter. I haven't even mentioned Omasigo. Like, and those dudes can play. Like, that dude.
Kobe's got like that, the build of like that guy that's just like, like you said, he doesn't get knocked back. A more physical guy, like no knock on Danny. Danny's like a physical guy. So is Jaron to some degree. But Kobe's like a smasher. Like Kobe's like that guy that hits you and you feel it. You know what I
he's
mean?
built like Devin White. Like,
Yeah.
that's who he's built like. He is thick.
Well,
like
you
that.
remember when he came in and there was the picture of him and K9.
Yes.
K9 had been in the NFL for like a year or whatever, and he's next to K9. He's already as big as K9 as a freaking freshman coming in. So that dude's just, we've been wanting Kobe to finally get that and put it all together and just, man, let's just put it in my veins. I'm so ready. What can football just be here already?
Yeah. Now, a good, not great report. The not great part is PJ appears to have put on no weight. I don't know if y'all saw, he was actually on the coaches show thing that they do on Tuesday nights. Dude still looks like a beanpole. Like, not gained much weight. And there was like this stuff floating when they were talking about all the weights with Jaden Jackson and everybody. Everybody was kind of speculating. I bet PJ's up to like 255, 260. And then the roster came out yesterday and he's still at 240. And while 240 is not small, but for this defense, he needs to be at 255. To be in the SEC, he's going to have to be at 255, 260. Now, the good report is, I also know somebody that was at the Future Freaks weekend, and they said that they saw him drink like 6 protein shakes while they were there. So hopefully he's trying to get it going. And you know what? This might be the product of these freshmen coming in and getting after it, because Jaden Jackson's already gained like 20 pounds. You got Danny Okoye dropping like 15 pounds already, or gaining 15 pounds, I should say. David Stone's gained like 10 or 12 pounds since he's been there. I mean, you start seeing the freshmen that are uber talented coming in and start beefing up, all of a sudden you might start taking your nutrition a little more seriously through the spring, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, and just give him, let Schmitty, let him, big dog, get in that gym, get in the gym and do some work. I mean, I'm anxious to see what some of these guys are going to look like come fall. I mean, spring game's going to be a lot of fun. I'm anxious to watch the spring game. But man, just the amount of transformation that happens between spring and fall still is incredible. We still have a lot to witness.
Yeah. We're a month away.
I've got a Debbie Downer on the spring game.
Uh-oh.
Oh Lord.
I'm annoyed. I think I'm over the spring game. I think I'm over the spring game. And I get why we do it. I just wanted to get to the season. Spring game is not enough for me. It actually pisses me off that I don't get football for like another 4 months after the spring game. So I'm like, you know what? I'd rather just go cold turkey. But no, you just tease me and it pisses me off.
Wow.
Okay, well, does Troy's anti-pack the palace? Write it down.
Dark Troy tonight. As he stacks all of his little cards in their neat stacks.
Yeah, I think he's Magic the Gathering, maybe.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, don't. You're not. I'm not going to tell you what I'm doing. You're not going to. Idiot.
Go to the spring game. That's so sad, Troy.
I know. And will I go? Yeah, probably. I'll probably take all 3 of my kids this year for the first time ever, and it'll be a whole thing. I'll probably cry because it's like, it's that moment, blah blah blah. But I just want the real thing.
I do too, but this is where you get to see the guys that you'd have no idea.
Okay,
again, it's like
Troy.
It is not worth, like, okay, never mind. I shouldn't have brought it
up. Troy, NCAA, EA, or whatever it's to be called, EA Sports College Football comes out with a demo.
What are you talking about? A demo?
in April.
No, it doesn't.
No, just say it did. Just say they released a demo. You're telling me you're not going to play the demo before the game comes out?
There's a good chance I don't. Yeah.
Oh,
That
okay.
is so not true. That is a bold-faced lie. That is a 100%
You're a bold
lie.
faced lie. It's not a lie.
I'm a bull. I can't be a complete and total lie. I'm here, Troy.
I don't know how you do it, but you pull it off.
Oh my gosh. So ridiculous. So I'm excited about the spring game. And literally, it's 5 weeks out to the spring game. I cannot wait. It's
Yeah,
one of my favorite things on the year.
Yeah, I'll be watching it, unfortunately, on Sooner Sports or whatever. But
Why don't you just fly in? What's wrong with that?
I already had to pay for a flight to Vegas, Troy.
Yeah. Yeah. We go there next week.
I'm saving my money on that one. And I will regret it more than likely, but I had to do it.
More than likely, he said. Did you hear
More
that,
than
Jared?
likely.
More than
Yeah.
likely. He's not even sure that
Yeah,
he's
not-
going to
he's
regret
not
not
confident in
going to Vegas with me.
Hey,
you
you know
Tyler.
what? I'm coming with y'all with just totally different takes today. Totally different takes.
That's what you do every podcast, but now you're just talking.
I'm the
stupid.
different take guy? No. You're the different take guy.
Okay.
Don't go there.
Before we get hung up too long, we can all agree Bake got paid and we're all happy.
Yes.
He's staying in Tampa, which I feel like we were all pretty much in the consensus that was
Yes.
to benefit to Bake, right? Would you agree, Troy?
Of course, yes.
So I'm excited. 3 years, 100 million, 50 guaranteed. Like, I'm happy for him. Like, I'm just glad that he's going to finally be at a franchise.
Well, you knew that was going to happen whenever Mike Evans signed his deal back with Tampa. It was like, all right,
Yeah.
Mike wasn't going to come back if they knew.
So
Bake
the whole thing with Mike, excuse me.
Oh yeah.
The whole
Yep.
thing with Mike was that it was going to be, who were they going to sign a quarterback? You knew that they had some assurance because that was his big concern, was who's going to be throwing me the ball. So you knew that they had some. So there was rumors with Kirk Cousins. I even saw like articles saying that Russell Wilson, all of these others might be the target for the Bucks. But yeah, Baker signing, I think, is good for that whole franchise. I feel like the Tampa Bay, given their situation, did a lot to, like, I feel like they did a good job of keeping that team where they could make they're still gonna be a tough team. You know what I mean?
That's a good point, because everybody thought them going to sign Baker is going to be a 1-year thing. You know, they're going to be in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes this year, and they weren't. They won a playoff game with Baker. So, what did you text back to John? God.
OSU bound.
Don't give him any more ammunition. He doesn't.
Oh.
So
It's fine. So, but here's the deal, though. Like, I also think that Baker going back there, I think obviously he wanted that. I think the organization wanted that. But let's also be honest. The fact that the salary cap bumped 30 million works out pretty great for Tampa, right? Because basically his contract this year, if you want to think about it in that way, is completely covered by the bump in the side, which is what's allowed them to go sign some of those guys they thought they were going to lose if they kept Baker around.
Yep.
So it's kind of one, like, this is not, I'm not comparing Tampa Bay to Golden State, but that year where they got KD, because the salary cap took such a bump, it allowed them to go get stuff they didn't think they could get. And that's kind of what's happened with Baker in this situation, which is awesome for him, man. Like, and by the way, he's got $5 million in incentives every year of that contract as well. So if he hits those incentives, he could make another $15 million in this contract.
Well, and the fact that, like I said, the 15 million of it is guaranteed is just, like, you got to be happy for him for that. So
heck yeah. Mixon is now a Houston Texan. I did not see that one coming.
Yeah, that was not on my bingo card. Can we just talk about, though? My personal take, the Texans might be really good next season.
They were really good this past season.
I know, Troy. But what I'm saying is,
like, really, really good.
Really, really good. Like, it's hard to say that when, like, yes, they made a good run. It was one season, all those sorts of things. They definitely weren't. They were more of a team than I think people thought they were going to be. So I think that kind of inflates that a little bit. But, like, if you told me right now the Texans are going to be like an 11-win team next year or something, it's like, I wouldn't argue that.
They drafted well, and CJ Stroud is going to be a perennial MVP candidate.
He's a dude, man.
That's what happened. They drafted really well the last 2 years, not at splashy positions, and then they got CJ Stroud. And CJ Stroud was the dude. Then give it to Joe Mixon. You get to play with Joe Burrow and CJ Stroud in your career.
Yeah.
Well done.
And what a great spot for him. I mean, I really think he will be a great addition. I think him and Pierce together, that's going to be a really formidable duo out of that backfield. And both of them are good at catching the ball, running the ball. Like
they'll be good. And they did other pickups, which I can't remember off the top of my head. But that are pretty solid. So they'll be good.
Troy, can you give us any updates and inside information on if Hollywood Brown is going to end up being a Chief?
I saw that. I'm so happy if he does. Like I want him to be a Chief so bad. I want him to come back and have the seasons that he's been having, or like before the injury. And I don't know if he'll get back to that level. But God, he'll be better than everybody except for maybe Rashee Rice on the squad right now if they're able to sign him for nuts and bolts.
He's going to be the fastest guy they've had since Tyreek.
Yes,
which will open that part of their offense up again in a massive way, which would be huge. Kirk Cousins got paid in free agency.
Best agent in the game. Period.
Yeah. Did you also see though that he may have got Atlanta in some hot water?
No.
Already?
What?
Yeah, he said some like in his interview, he was talking about how he'd already talked to like the trainer. I don't remember if it was like the trainer, the general manager, and like some of the coaching staff, like basically alluding that there was tampering. And that's a big no-no.
Yeah, that is a big no-no. They don't like that.
I don't remember who all it was. So it may not have been that many people, but he did say he talked to the Falcons organization in some capacity before the signing period.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, one of the things I'm most excited about is seeing Derrick Henry with a black visor and the all-black Baltimore uniform. Dude. Like, that's like the most creative player thing ever.
Try to defend that RPO.
Dude, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Can you imagine him and dude, no, there's no shot, dude. Like
that's a great fit for Derrick Henry and for Baltimore. I mean, that's a home run signing in free agency as far as I'm concerned.
And what the heck are the Cowboys doing?
They have no money.
Literally.
They have no money.
And they have no running back. Deuce Vaughn is sitting there as their starter right now.
Okay. I'll roll with that.
For like a game and a half, and then he's out because he's so tiny. Like, I love the dude. Don't get me wrong, but geez, do something.
Yeah, I mean,
Jerry's going to use his first round draft pick on a running back.
Yeah,
this is a terrible year for running backs.
I know,
dude. It's okay. Can we talk about another big signing that I don't think is going to be as impactful as what people think it's going to be?
Ooh, yes.
And it's going to really tick some people off. This is going to get us the hate comments from an entire fan base. Saquon going to the Eagles, I don't think is that big of an impact.
Ooh.
I think look, Kelsey's gone, right? He's retired.
Yeah. Okay.
Lane Johnson, we love him, former OU guy, all that. Really starting to show some age. Like the offensive line to me, I think is like in that year that they could have a very bad year, and that's been their strength. But like they have a lot of age there. They have a lot of I just don't see it being one of the best offensive lines in NFL. And that's really what's carried them the last year or two. So adding somebody like Saquon I feel like is going to be that situation where you bring him in and he's not going to have the offensive line. So it's like, yeah, he'll still produce, but he's not going to be a superstar at level production anymore. Okay, Troy, go ahead.
We yield our time to Representative Troy Fight.
Okay. Do you know what the stats were for the Philadelphia Eagles and their running backs and their team in general, Jared?
No idea.
No idea. Okay. Let's go to the tape. Okay.
Tape.
They were 8th in the NFL this past year, 4.3 yards a carry. Okay.
Mhm.
And if we're talking about DeAndre Swift, who doesn't try to run. Like, I'll give him this. He tried a little bit harder with the Eagles, but with the Lions, he was just going through the motions. And he played two-thirds of the season as the starter, maybe less. And he got 1,050 yards with that aging offensive line. Saquon, I think, outside of Christian McCaffrey, is the most talented running back in the game. I said outside, like, who do you think? I said talented. I didn't say best, did I?
Mm-mm.
Who do you put above him, Daryl?
Chubb.
Chubb might not play the game again, so I'm not putting him up there right now.
He still, from a talent standpoint, he is more talented than Saquon Barkley.
You have to be on the field to be.
What about Derrick Henry?
Not right now. You talk about aging. That dude's aging.
He went for 1,000 yards last year.
Still aging.
On a bad Titans team.
So did DeAndre Swift on a bad Philadelphia Eagles offensive line, apparently.
No, last year they were good. That's what he said.
Last year they were good. And what I'm saying is, if you look at their progression throughout the season, they start off hot, right? They were dominant through the first, 10 weeks? Everybody was talking about them being a shoe-in for the Super Bowl again, like through however many weeks of the season. And then it trailed off because you had Lane Johnson go down in like every game because he's getting worn out. Jason Kelce obviously showed his age, and now he's gone, an all-pro.
I think Kelce is going to matter. That's a big deal. I'll give you that.
But like I said, I like, and I'm not dogging on Lane Johnson. I'm just saying, if you watch the games, I watched a lot of the games later in the season, and that dude came off gimpy a lot more. He's just reaching that age where his body is breaking down, and he can't make it through an entire season with that wear and tear on him.
If all I'm saying is, if DeAndre Swift can put up those kind of numbers, dude, what can Saquon do?
I mean,
I don't know. I don't want to make this bet now, Troy, but I'll make a tentative bet with you.
What's the bet? What's the bet?
Oh man, this is gonna sound crazy, but I'll do it. I'll make like a bet on a Steam game that Saquon doesn't have 1,000+ yards at Philadelphia.
Woo!
The only thing that worries me is the injury. That's
but you have to be on the field to be considered for these things. And Saquon's been on the field for an entire year. Here's what
I'll do, Troy. We'll earmark that, right? We'll put a bookmark in that.
All right.
And we'll reapproach it after the draft once we start getting closer to the NFL season.
That's fair.
See how things lie with trades and movement and all those things.
And all the things. Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah. Okay.
I think that is fair. Okay. Let's get off the NFL. Let's get back to some Oklahoma discussion. Thunder, Troy, you mentioned it earlier. J-Dub goes down, 3 nights ago? Is that right?
Well, three or four.
3 or 4?
Yeah,
and
like
the whole world is terrified, especially when he releases an Instagram photo of just a towel hanging over his head the next morning. And then all of a sudden today, he's not on the injury report.
He was trolling people, man. He 100% was trolling people.
You think so?
He came out and
even
said,
watching it live,
yes.
like, because I know you watched it.
Yes, I did.
You thought watching him roll the way that he did.
No, the Instagram thing he was trolling people.
I understand that, but I'm saying that combined with what you saw in that game, you thought he would miss 1 game?
No, I thought he'd miss a week. I thought he'd miss 2 to 3 games. That's what I thought. But it depended on what the reaction was the next day, right? He was we were talking about it before, but he was like, his ankle was already a little tendy in the game. He kind of like popped it a couple of times. He was holding it. And I was like, I just had a really bad feeling for that game. I was like, I don't like the feel. I feel like J-Dub's about to get hurt somewhere. And I sold that to my son, and he's like, oh, I'll be fine. And then 10 minutes later, cameraman makes a nice move. Cameraman pop.
So here, I have another question for you.
Mhm.
Do you know what the rules are, Troy, for giving inaccurate injury report / load management of player decisions?
Yeah, it's not good. I don't know what the exact penalty is. I think it was like fining or something like that. I don't know.
But all that to say, even though he's not on the injury report, let's just say that Oklahoma City still tomorrow at some point came back and said, well, we're going to hold him out just for extra precaution. Could they get
Mhm.
fined for that?
No,
Okay.
because it's not inaccurate. No.
Well,
That's,
and
I feel like the troll job is them not putting him on the injury report.
I mean, that's only if he doesn't play.
Right.
So he must be fine. I'm trying to figure out what you're going with this.
I'm
Not putting
saying
him-
that I don't believe he's going to play tomorrow in Dallas.
I'd make a
I
bet with
believe
you
that
right
they
now. I'll
did
make a bet
not
with you
put
right
him
now.
on the injury report to make people think that he is healthy when he's not really healthy yet.
I'll make a bet with you right now that he plays.
I'm not making that bet.
If they don't put him on that right there, like he's gonna play. I think they've already said he's playing. Like Royce Young or somebody's already reported that he's playing.
But they also said that Andre Robertson was going to play next week, and 14 months later, he hadn't played a minute for the Thunder. And you and I both know it's the only insider story we've ever broken. Andre Robertson was never going to play for the Thunder again in his contract because of his injury. And we knew that in the first week it went down.
This is accurate. Yes. No, I them taking him off, and he was practicing. Like, there's video of him in practice.
There was of Andre too.
I'm just saying, like, this is different. J-Dub's playing tomorrow night.
Okay. Jared, you were about to say something and I interrupted you. I apologize.
How dare you?
yeah, no, I just said I was just saying it's especially with just like ankle injuries and things like that, just with those sorts of injuries, it's so hard. Like that's the thing. I mean, you really have to give it kind of time to figure it out, right? Because if it's was it like level 3 or level 4 sprain or whatever they call it, it's like that's a whole different conversation than I rolled my ankle and I, like Troy said, I need a couple of nights to rest it so I'm 100%. So yeah, J-Dub going down. I mean, I think who was it they played last night?
The Pacers.
The Pacers.
And
Which
I feel like
they're a scrappy little team.
They're scrappy. I think it's a
like
watch
the best offense in the game.
But
Terrible
yeah,
defense.
but I think you could see like J-Dub not being there, kind of like I think that affected him a little bit. Just watching the stats,
They just couldn't hit the
100%.
broadside of a barn last night. Like they were getting open shots that they just could not.
Here's what's crazy. You go look at everybody said, oh, they missed all the threes. Shea missed all the threes. They actually hit almost 38% of threes.
At one point, their 3-point percentage was higher than their field goal percentage for most of the first quarter.
They just missed a bunch of layups that they typically hit, a bunch of just open shots they typically hit. Shea was missing like those turnaround fade from the elbow shots that he typically hits, right? Like it was just an off night, and they still were in it most of the night. Came back to within 3 or 4 in the fourth quarter. You could tell they needed one more horse when people aren't shooting well, one more horse to come back, So anyway, I think I cut you off there on your thought there, Jared. My bad.
Yeah, no, I mean my biggest thing is I think that the good news is, like I said, looks like he's gonna be back. And even then, like you said, like they feel like that team that, again, the Pacers are a very scrappy team, very powerful offense. And it wasn't like a blowout. They didn't lose by 20 or something. Like,
No.
I mean, like you said, they're still in there. So that's what I think is like what's making this team. They lost a very key component to their success, and they still were competitive.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's a great way to look at it. Great way to look at it.
I have to talk about something, Troy, that's not going to make you happy.
Cool. And why did I get on this thing today?
The numbers are 15, 16, 11, 19, and 13 in points. Rebounds 7, 10, 9, 6, and 5.
He's had 5 straight games. Josh Giddey is playing consistent the last 5 games.
Troy, what happened here? You and I both were ready to move on from the Josh Giddey experiment.
This doesn't make me mad, by the way. This
I know.
isn't
I just wanted to sucker
you really like psyched me out on that one.
He is sucking us back in, Troy. I think we might have a 6'8" point guard that could really help this basketball team.
Shut up. Now see, you said it. You said it. Now we're screwed. Now he's going to go back to. God dang it! Now some the new report's going to come out. It's like, oh, it's actually true, and here's why. Dude, this is what you do. You don't say things like that.
But okay, so real question to both of you: do y'all both feel like this is like the most consistent month maybe Josh Giddey's had?
Sure.
Probably this season.
Yeah, this season. He's had more consistent stretches last year.
Yeah, I think. Look,
Troy. So let me clarify that though. Do you feel like he had as good at longer stretches last year of efficiency, or just scoring points because nobody else was here? Because I feel like last year he had some stretches where he scored points. It wasn't necessarily because he was just lighting the world on fire athletically. It was because there was no Chet and he was legitimately the third option and sometimes still the second option, with J-Dub being a rookie.
No, I feel like he had better stretches last year. So we're going to look it up.
I have to be that guy. Everything that happened with him, like prior to the season and early in the season and all that whole fiasco and drama, and people can't act like that doesn't affect you.
No, 100%. And I think we all three said that we all believed it was impacting him, right?
Yeah.
But then when it was, 2.5 months after everything had kind of been squelched, it was kind of like, okay, man, like.
Yeah, but it's also
it got bad enough that Troy was ready to move on. And that's a big deal because he has been a Josh Giddey defender for a long time.
Yes. And I understand where Troy's coming from. I understand the sentiment there. But I think we all have to also agree that with basketball, there's a little bit of that mentality. I had this conversation today because I've been watching the Full Swing series or whatever.
I got it. I got to
Netflix.
Season 2 came out.
Yeah, season 2's out, so I've been watching it. There is that whole mentality of the hot cold streak. Like in basketball, if you get really cold, like him going through all that and playing down a level from what he's used to, it takes a little bit for you to get out of that funk. It's not just okay, now that stuff's behind me, let me flip that switch. Like for a lot of guys, it's it does take you having to get that footing and having a good month to get things going. Now, I'm with you both. If they decide to move on from Giddey and do something else in the offseason or whatever, if his performance is the way it has been, okay, it is what it is, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, if they give him time and they give him a little bit of if he starts to get his footing back, I'm willing to give him some more runway.
Yes, Troy.
Josh had better stretches last year. Here you go. 12 games in December of last year, he averaged 16 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, shooting 43% behind the arc, 90% free throw in the month of December.
Okay, but you're doing the whole month stretch.
Well, you're talking about the month of March right now.
Well, sorry, I said month. I meant 5 consecutive games, but yes.
And then in March of last year, he averaged nearly 18 and a half, and 7 at 38% 3-point percentage. And then if I want to go pull up his game log, which I love, basketballreference.com. It is very good.
It is very, very good.
It is a very great website.
Feel free to sponsor Basketball Reference. We would love it.
By all means, we'd be fine with it. Okay, to 23. So, like, here's March. Here's the points. Shut up.
This is great podcasting.
You're great podcasting. All right, so yeah, in March, he had 22, 18, 24, 17, 10, 19, 15, 15, 13, 16. Like, we're like, and that's shooting really good at 3-point. Like,
Yeah.
that's like,
Yeah.
no, he's had better. Dang, to close out the year, he had 13, 25. What was that? No, sorry. He had 16, 13, 18, 27, 17, 31, 18, 21, 16, 15 to close out the year.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, he had a really good close of the year. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, it is nice to see him playing consistent basketball. That's for sure. It is something that
Agreed.
this team could really use for him just to be a very consistent, player through the playoffs. That's the difference for me in this team making a deep run and not, is they need somebody like that to step up. Which, last question, Troy, on the Thunder, and Jared, I'll even ask you, how much longer do you continue to give Hayward run at 12 to 18 minutes?
hold on, because I don't like this question either.
Okay, I'll jump in because I know Troy's going to be more analytical about it and look up stats. But I would say, like I said, I kind of said it last pod, and maybe I'm just going to keep kicking it down the road. I still think you got to give him time. You got to find a way to give him time, because I think that experience working in the system and playing with these guys, like, I think you're willing to pay that cost now if it pays dividends in the playoff with a veteran like him. Does that make sense?
100%. Yes.
Like, I would rather lose a game to the Pacers because Hayward was out on the floor now and have him where he feels even more comfortable come the playoffs. Like I make that trade every time.
So, last against the Pacers, he started the game, played 30 minutes in the game. Was 3 of 4, 1 of 2 behind the arc. Had 9 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal in 30 minutes. Didn't replace the J-Dub, but we didn't expect him to.
No.
Now, so he goes from where I thought he started feeling himself a little bit more coming off the bench and everything like that, trying to find his way, when to pick his spots, when to be assertive. He's still finding that. And then you put him in the starting role where, like, hey, we're going to ask you to play with the starters. So, like, figure out when you need to be aggressive, when you need to pick your spots, all that stuff. From a veteran, it does help, but he's also never been the this is my team type of guy, right?
Yeah.
He's always been like, I'm pretty sure I'm better than most everybody on this floor, but I'm not going to be showboaty about it, and I'm not going to tell you about it. Like, I'll put up really nice numbers, and he used to, right?
Right.
He's not a net negative right now. He's not really net positive either, right?
Right.
He's not taking minutes away from guys that I'm like, oh, I wish they had more minutes. I think Aaron Wiggins might be the only guy.
There we go.
But Cason Wallace is doing great still.
Yep.
Aaron Wiggins, we have seen, though, that he's the type of guy that he doesn't need like the rhythm. He can come in and be an instant impact dude if you sit him for 2 games or he plays 20 minutes a game. Like, he doesn't need that rhythm, because remember how spotty he was last year, and even in stretches this year, we're like, why didn't Aaron Wiggins play in that game? So he's still like that, and he's still, every time he comes in, he makes a good impact. Now, I agree with you, and Jim Traber kind of said it on the radio a couple days ago. Like, why don't the Thunder play their best guys every single night?
Which I disagree with that, by the way. So, just to be clear. So go ahead with your thought, though. Sorry.
But where I'm going with it is, I sometimes think that Aaron Wiggins is one of your very best guys.
Yes.
But he doesn't get the minutes like a couple other guys do.
Yes.
And so, and I think like I want to say it's like they know that too, but they're not. It's weird to me. They still are hedging towards development with this team over, hey, we are the team that could win the West, right? Over like making sure we get the 1 seed. So like they're still hedging towards that development side.
Well, so
Well, can
let
I
me,
can I also be honest with this though? At this point, with the way the rankings are, I don't want the 1 seed because it means we got to play the Lakers most likely. I see the Lakers coming out of that play-in deal, and that's just a terrible matchup early. Now, I think if the Thunder got in a roll,
They would if the Lakers came out of the play-in, the Lakers would be the 7th seed. You realize that, right?
who's the 8 seed then?
So here's how the tournament goes. So it's 6 versus 10, 7 versus 8. Okay.
Yes.
No. Sorry. 7 versus 10, 8 versus 9. That's it. 7 versus 8 versus 9. So if the 7 seed wins, they're the 7 seed. That first game.
Gotcha.
Okay. And if the 8, whoever wins of the 8-9 team plays the loser.
Right. And that's how they get to the 8.
Yeah. Yes. That's how they get to the 8. So if the Lakers came out of it, they'd be the 7 seed.
Well, they are currently the 9 seed. So the only thing that they can become is the 8 seed.
okay.
Right? Unless somehow the 7 seed loses.
Okay.
Right,
So
which is possible because those 4 teams are a bugger.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so backing up to the other thought. I agree that Aaron Wiggins is a better player. I don't know why they're not giving him minutes, but I know this much. I'm rolling with Gordon Hayward at the minutes that he has for maybe another week. But after that, I want to start tightening things up because we know in the playoffs, they're only going to play 8 to 9 guys. Like, that's how it's going to be.
I think it's a chess move. This is all a chess move. Okay, because again, when I look at what they're doing, you have to also understand what is the biggest thing we've talked about with this Thunder team. Like aside from SGA being the timeline,
they're ahead of schedule.
They're ahead of schedule, but why are they ahead of schedule? It's because of chemistry. Like that is a huge component to this team.
Right.
They love to play together. They all like that. That's their thing. They're willing to feed. It's selfless basketball, positionless basketball. You need to have that chemistry at a very, very high level. Going getting a guy like Gordon Hayward, who's known to be a great teammate, doesn't mean that you're going to plug him into this team and he's immediately going to have that chemistry level with everybody. Playing him minutes right now, I would rather play him, give him 18 to 20 minutes or whatever. Like give him some minutes. Even if it costs you a game or two, and to me in the long run, that's what pays the dividend is when you hit the playoffs. If Gordon Hayward has reached, I mean, you are taking that risk, but if he builds that chemistry with the team and starts to have those relationships with those guys where they're willing to trust him and give him the ball, or he's willing to give the ball off to them, that adds another component you can throw at your opponent. And that's something that they're going to need in the playoffs.
That's the exact sentiment that Mark Daigneault has with the team overall for the next few years is development over. He wants the long-term effects and benefits over the short-term satisfaction.
And I think there's some wisdom in that, but Troy, once we get to the playoffs, will that continue?
See, I don't know. Here's why. I've been thinking about this. Last year it tightened up to like 7 or 8 dudes that played. I think 8 guys played in the play-in. I don't know because I kind of think they feel I think he ends up going with 10 or 11 guys because we've got 10 or 11 guys that legitimately I think we all feel very confident in that can give them great minutes.
See, I don't like it though.
I don't necessarily like it, but I also think you have to play off of matchup. And so like if Isaiah Joe for instance, if Isaiah Joe is not hitting his shot, he goes 0 for 3 in the first quarter or second quarter. Maybe you're like, all right, I don't know how much more I'm going to play you. I'm going to see what Gordon's got or Kayson's got, right? Or if Chet needs a bigger body out there, all right, we're going to throw We're gonna throw
It's
Jalen Williams.
Jay Will out there.
Yeah.
but
So
but we all know that the rotation in basketball is so much more nuanced than like I always get tired because it's especially bad in basketball and probably every sport, but it's like, why don't you have your best guys out there like all the time? It's like it's more nuanced than that. You gotta rest guys, you gotta put guys out there for a matchup or whatever. Like it's so impossible right now to say what that's going to look like come the first round, second round, or whatever.
Right. But I think what you can establish is like, I think what Troy's getting at is will the mental if they play like this, the kind of disbursement of minutes that they are right now for 12 to 13 guys every night, then they're literally going into the playoffs as a development chance, not winning at chance.
well, no, I don't
Okay,
think this is where I'm taking a step back. I don't think it's development. I think they legit think they've got 10 or 11 guys that are really good and
Okay.
can give you great moments.
Yes,
Let me
and
try-
I
let me
agree
try-
that you
let
have
me-
to play some matchups, but
let me put it in the middle and say it this way, and maybe this is like where I'm in the in between. I think they're going to both try to do development and try to win the game as much as possible. The winning, I think, is going to be priority, but I also think Dagnall is going to try to make some moves that will be beneficial for development, regardless of it being the playoffs or not. Like I think the development part of it is just the massive bonus that he's going to come for, but he's going to play to win. But like I said, this isn't a team where it's like you're throwing out a guy that just does not belong in an NBA playoff game, is what Troy's saying.
I agree
And
with
I
that.
think that's
I
great.
just think
even
though,
if you put Hayward out there, say Hayward, let's throw out the hypothetical. It's I don't even know who they're playing. Just game 1 of the playoffs or first, whatever, first series, 7-game series. And you say Hayward averaged 12 minutes a game. Do you think that's too many?
it depends on what happens here over the next couple of weeks. Still,
But
I
that's
think.
but
But
I mean,
as of today, right now, yes, that's too many. It's too many, and for me, this is just me. You have had 82 games and a preseason to develop.
okay.
When you are
What about
when you are a team that finishes in the top 4 of your conference, when the playoffs come, you push all chips in to go as far as you can possibly go. This isn't a team like last year that's in the play-in. If we were in the play-in game and they had made it to a series, you dink and dunk all you want trying to figure out what you have and what you don't have. You are in a position right now that if you tank the rest of the way, you're going to be a top 4 seed. You push all the chips in and you play the very best players. That doesn't mean that if a matchup comes along that you need to play Muscala or you need to play Williams or what. But if you're telling me that Gordon Hayward is playing even minutes with Aaron Wiggins with the way it is right now, that's a travesty to this team.
okay,
If you're telling me that Cason Wallace is not playing very many minutes, that's a travesty to this team. Like, those are your best players.
But that's what I'm saying. Like to me, the way that I look at this team is, and I think this is the mentality from what if you look at it from because you look at who they have and who they could have traded, right? Like hypothetically during the trade deadline, they could have moved to Cason Wallace or a Wiggins or whoever. They could have done that. What I'm saying is, I think their goal is, yes, they want to compete, and don't get me wrong, they want to win. I don't think they're going to go into the tournament saying we're full development mode, right? But I also think that they're going to go into it saying we're going to maximize what we get out of it in every capacity, and that's going to include development, so that even if we do lose this year, next year we're better equipped, and we can be leaner, and we can be better, and they're going to do that every year because that's the mentality of this organization.
Yeah, and again, Troy, I want Troy's thought on this. I think we have seen you cannot do that in the NBA. You cannot play in the NBA playoffs with a team that's capable and play as though you're going to get 5 years chance at this. Because remember when we thought that the Thunder were going to win 2 or 3 championships, and then what happened? Rolled ankles, broken bone foots. When you have a chance, you cannot develop. I'm sorry. The development is win when you have a chance like this team.
And I do.
Do you hear what I'm saying, Troy?
100%. And I think they have shown that they will do that. They will push all the chips in.
That's my point. But yeah,
and I think here's the thing. We've all said it. They're above the timeline. They're what's I can't think, dude.
Ahead of
Come on.
schedule.
Thank you, freaking A. They're ahead of schedule, right? We all get it. Next year could be a banger year. And so where I think they're still leaning towards the development, I feel like soon they're gonna have to go push all the chips in. We've seen Presti do that in the past. They traded for PG-13 and they traded for Carmelo. They push all the chips they had.
Right.
So he will make those moves. It's just like we all assume, it should be now because we're near the 1 seed, and there is some credence to that thought. Like, hey, we need to do this now because we don't know when we're going to be in this position again. Totally agree with that. But at the same time, we can't predict Presti.
Right, but I'm not talking about free agents. I'm not talking about.
I'm not talking about free agents either.
I'm talking about minutes played.
Okay,
I'm
but here's
about
same
looking
thing.
down
Same
at my
thing.
bench and
okay.
saying,
Let me phrase this as best I can. They're going to try to win. That is going to be the focus if they get in the tournament as a 1 or an 8 seed. It doesn't matter, right? I think they're going to. What I'm saying is that they are also going to maximize development with that for now. I don't know about next year or the year after, but I think development is going to be in the mind of Sam Presti and Daigneault in the playoffs, even if their main goal is to win.
Here's what's going to happen: is
I
they're
don't
going to go from Chet and J-Dub and Shea playing 30 minutes. They're going to start playing 38 to 40 minutes in the playoffs.
yeah,
On certain games. And we're still going to, I still think we're going to play 9-10 guys, but their minutes will be, instead of like 15 to 20, they're going to be 5 to 8, because then you're bringing the starter right back in.
Yeah.
and that sounds better. But even playing 9 to 10 guys is less than what they do on a typical night.
No, they play 10 or 11, 10 almost always, sometimes 11.
I've seen a lot of nights they play 12 guys.
All right, I'll go to the stats sheet again.
Oh my gosh. Anyways, I'm just saying.
Look. Can we just say?
I just agree to disagree. That's it. Like, I mean, that's
fine.
just all there is for me. And I mean,
Look,
I think
I think the biggest thing we have to look at is we're talking about the Thunder being a 1, 2, 3, 4 seed, pretty much at like worst right now.
yes,
Like that's crazy.
I know,
we have
and
to
that's
acknowledge
why
that.
you have to go for it. Like
They played 11 guys against the Pacers. Okay.
Troy's still there.
Let me just put it this way, and I want to get Troy's thought on this first before Daryl yells at me. Whatever Daigneault and Presti decide to do, I'm on board with, because they're ahead of schedule. They've done things that almost no other franchise has done. They've built a team in a different way. I mean, literally, they are. I don't want to call them this, accuse the whole Golden State thing, but it's like when Golden State went on the run, that was the beginning of the era of threes, right?
Right.
Before that was everybody bodying down low and trying to drive the lane. That's how you
here's a good example. The Miami game. Good game, right?
Yes.
They got down by double digits, came back and won, right? Had a really good third quarter. They played 10 guys. And it's the 10 that I want to see in every game. It was Jay Will, Gordon Hayward, Isaiah Joe, Wiggins, Wallace. That's it. I think that, because what they do so well, like Daigneault has done so well, is mix and match the starters with the bench. There's never a full bench unit on the floor outside of garbage time, right?
Right.
And so that's where we see one of the best lineups in the entirety of the NBA is when you take out Josh and put in Isaiah Joe.
Mm-hmm.
We want that lineup on the floor a lot.
Yeah.
Right. And so also the other guys can't play the whole time. So that's why you get J-Dub and Chet leading the second and fourth quarters, right, with the bench guys. And depending on who's out there, he's placing matchups. But those 10 guys, those are the other 5, I am extremely comfortable with. I don't think Muscala, I think they're trying to get Muscala back in. He's not going to play in the playoffs. I'm gonna call it
Yeah.
right now.
And I think, again, if it started right now today, I don't think Gordon Hayward plays very much at all. You can
I
maybe
think
say
he does from the perspective of he's been there, done that, he's seen it, and it wouldn't rattle him.
Sure.
Because if you get it, we don't know how. We still don't know how anybody is going to react in a 7-game series. We have
Right.
no idea.
Right.
Anybody on the team, right? We can guess, we can surmise, but we do not know, except for Gordon Hayward, right? So if
I would argue Shea.
what 7 game? I mean, he was in the 7-game series his rookie year.
Yeah, didn't him and Chris Paul and Dort make a run?
Yeah, they made a run in the playoffs, but that was in the
when
bubble.
nobody expected them to make a run.
That was in the bubble.
Yes.
Yeah,
which was even worse. And he performed. That's where we knew he was the timeline.
Yes and no. Like, you just don't know, because in a hostile environment in the playoffs, that's a totally different ballgame. Totally different ballgame. What I'm saying is, like, we don't know. Like, if Giddey comes out and he is freaking terrible, I want a Gordon Hayward to be able to be in there and have a stabilizing factor. If Cason Wallace, I don't think that he would do this because of his demeanor, right? Cason Wallace is missing assignments. He's not, his head is not, he's not focused. I need somebody else in there. I need a Gordon Hayward or somebody like that to be able to stabilize, right? And so that's where Gordon Hayward, he's gonna play in the playoffs.
Well, okay, I
just feel like in both of those scenarios you just gave me, my number one option still is Aaron Wiggins and Isaiah Joe.
I don't disagree with you, but I still need that Gordon Hayward, because guess what? If Giddey hardly plays in a game because he ain't right, like he is not up here, and he gets maybe 10 minutes a game, I gotta have Gordon Hayward taking those minutes, not of the starter minutes, because I want Aaron Wiggins or Isaiah Joe having. I need them of the Aaron Wiggins minutes or the Isaiah Joe minutes of the typical game. Does that make sense? I've still got to have Hayward. I've still got to have Gordon Hayward in there.
Well, he's never coming on the pod.
He's never. Sorry, bro. Slip. My bad.
Look. Here's my whole point that I'm trying to make is, again, with Presti and Dagnall, I think there's going to be chess moves, and I do think, yes, they are going to focus on winning the tournament. They're winning the playoffs this year. But again, in their back of their mind, they are trying to look at those chess moves for the coming years, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see a little bit of a mix-up to some degree with how many minutes people got, or how many minutes people get, because you're going to see maybe Cason Wallace gets more minutes, right? And if Cason Wallace goes out there in the playoffs and puts up, 12 points every game or whatever, it's like teams are going to be like, I would actually give up a little bit to get him. Right. Or things like that. That's what I'm saying, is they are going to, I don't think we can predict what's going to happen in the playoffs yet until we get closer to the actual seeding being set.
Right.
Because these chess moves, all the things we're arguing about are not going to matter. And we can't say until we get closer to that.
But again, what the only thing I'm saying is, yes, look, if Aaron Wiggins gets hot, do you think he's going to play 30 minutes? Yeah. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about you sit down in the office and go, okay, we got a playoff series in 3 days. Do you want me to try to grow some of these guys that we're not sure, or do you want me to win? And that is a completely different mentality. And it doesn't mean you're not trying to win.
That's what I'm saying. Who are we arguing is going to be, like, outside of Hayward and I guess Giddey? Like, who are we talking about? Like, who are we arguing about?
I think if Hayward. Now I said it. Good Lord. Now I said it. Hayward. I think if Hayward keeps playing the way he's playing, I don't think that that's a guy that you need to continue to give super consistent minute to. I think you need to use Jay Will. I think you need to use Aaron Wiggins and Isaiah Joe and Cason Wallace. Those 4 guys, that gives you a 9-man rotation. And Gordon Hayward doesn't necessarily have to be a guy that's got to be out there.
But I guess in a sense I don't disagree with you, but that's like saying if if we use recruiting classes to determine who wins, then let's just go ahead and pack it up and call it Georgia's national championship this year. Like, you cannot say that that's what the product is going to be when the playoff gets here, is my point. We're literally talking about nonsense. Like, Gordon Hayward may be better or worse by the time we get to the playoffs.
You are saying that Sam Presti's going to want to put players in a position that I might be able to trade them. That's a completely different thing than I need you to go slay a giant.
No, it's not.
All right. Troy just continues to stack cards and give no input or speak into this.
I have been speaking the whole time. Are you kidding me? No, I agree with Jared that we're just talking in circles at this point. We got to move on.
Yeah. Well, we're done. So it's all over. Troy, would you like to say anything about the Say the Union address while we have you?
Why would I want to go there? Why would I want to say something?
Hang on. No. Okay.
Are you kidding me?
Not. No, let's not. Troy, Dune 2. Dune 2.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Here's what I want to say about Dune. Because Dune 2 and Dune 1 they're essentially one movie. It's like 5.5 hours a movie, essentially. It is so good. It is so good.
Can I actually? I didn't even realize that. So I saw a video today, and it made me realize, because have you ever read the books, Troy?
I haven't. It's making me want to read the books for sure.
So the books, by the way, if you're reading the books, like, mark off a month to read those things, because they are
I know.
dense. The genius of the movie is that, because, like, I did somebody, like, even when I watched the movie, I remember thinking, like, man, the pacing was really weird with Dune Part 2, because, like, it was like that first part, you were like, it was really, like, slow, and, like, you were getting to know him and Shawnee and everything, and, like, you had this whole buildup of his character, and then, like, the second part of that flip was, like, really fast, and, like, all of a sudden all this is happening, and I don't know. I can't really say too much without, like, spoiling anything, but it's like the genius of that alone, based on what, if they keep following the books, is genius.
I'll be honest with you, man. Like, those two movies together are some of my favorite things I've watched on a screen in years.
I didn't even know this.
A lot of years.
I didn't even know this, by the way. Dune 2 Part 2 was not greenlit. It was contingent upon Dune 1 doing well, which is kind of wild.
Well, Dennis Villeneuve, or whatever his name is, said that he's already working on the third script.
Yeah, they could do literally like 5 or 6 movies based on, I think I've read like 4. I think I've read 4 of the books, if I remember right. And yeah, they could do like literally 6 or 7.
I'm gonna speak for Daryl here. But I don't think, Daryl, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you liked it as much as I did.
No, I liked it a lot, but you, at one point we're talking about putting it in like your top 5 movies all time. I'm definitely not on that level. No.
If I put sci-fi, oh man, I don't know if I can put it on top 5 straight up.
If we're talking about like the top, if I put the two together as one movie, yeah, there's a chance.
Yeah. See, I loved it. Loved both of them, but it is not even in my top 10 overall, like, movie category thing at all.
Yeah, I don't know. By the way, real quick before we wrap up, One Full Swing, I'm like 3 or 4 episodes in, Troy. It's pretty good. The Gentleman. If you're a Guy Ritchie fan, if you liked The Gentleman,
I saw
there's
commercials
the show,
and stuff, but I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, the show's out. It's really weird. I was like, I thought it was gonna be more of a crossover thing, and I guess it's like one of those. It's like takes place in the same universe, but they don't really overlap. It's kind of weird in that capacity.
Okay,
but it's still really, really good. I'm actually really enjoying it. So, I'm only like 3 episodes into that. I've been splitting Full Swing and that.
The movie was awesome.
Yeah, the movie's one of my favorite Guy Ritchie movies, and that's saying a lot.
It's really good. It's so.
Well, I'm watching Shogun right now.
Is that the FX show, like the Vikings but samurai?
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Is it on? Is it on Hulu?
Yeah.
Is that where?
So
you'll have to check it out on Hulu then. Okay, sick.
I'm watching that, and my wife and I got into season 2 of Wheel of Time, so that's been pretty good.
I could never get into Wheel of Time.
Don't even know that show.
It's a 13 book or 14 book series.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's yeah, a lot of stuff coming out though. I'm excited. So yeah, we'll have to next week. Troy, we'll have to have Troy on, and he'll have to be caught up on Full Swing. We'll have to talk about it.
Oh wait, but next week we can't pod because
We'll be in
we're gonna
Vegas.
be in Vegas. Yeah, so we'll there's no pod next week, and we'll be touring the UNLV facilities, hanging out with Oklahoma boys that are on staff there. So we'll be doing that. We'll be at a Golden Knights hockey game, my first NHL hockey game next week. So that'll be fun. And Troy, you know what else we're doing?
No.
We're going to eat at Capitol Grill. That's
Mhm.
yeah. So just
Love you, Troy. Troy, this is all him. I'm just here.
look, he's gonna just end
He's
it.
gonna.
He's
Hey, Troy, before you leave,
Hold on.
actually, Helldivers. Have you played it?
Yes, it's fun.
Okay, cool. We need to play it sometime. All right.
This has just been the Just Okay Sports Podcast. I'm Daryl. That's Jared. That's Troy.
I'm proud of him.
I was gonna let him say bye, Baker, but he wasn't gonna stick around for it.
I got you, Troy. I got you.
Oh my goodness, we ran him out. But yes, no pod next week. We'll be in Vegas, but check our account on Twitter. We'll be giving you updates on the UNLV facilities again as we get to go over there and hang out and check that stuff out, as well as just probably just moments throughout the week. So it'll be good stuff. That's Jared. That was Troy. I'm Daryl. We're having a great time. We hope you are too. We will talk to you guys later.
Bye, Baker.